Hello everyone, it's Lindsay and I'm back with another entry using the Illustrated Faith Revival Camp, and I'm just going to say this page is a disaster, but we save it. And it actually is probably a good thing because this particular entry is on fellowship. It was written by Jeanette and it was very, very personal for me, and so I probably would have ended up sharing way too much personal on here, and I'm always kind of an advocate for that, but this one in particular really should just stay between me and God. And so instead of talking about the verse and all that, I'm going to leave it to you guys to do your own study, and we're going to talk about how to save a disaster Bible journaling page. So what I'm doing here on screen is applying some gesso. Now, if you followed me for a while, you know I never use gesso. It is very rare. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't have time for it, but I did have another Revival Camp entry on the back of this page, and I wanted to play with some Distress Oxide inks, and so I didn't want to ruin that other page. So I thought, I'll just go ahead and apply 2 layers of clear gesso just to be safe. I did use some Art Basics clear gesso, and I applied it super thick because I wanted some texture. And this saved my butt in the end. So what you see me doing here is I am taking some Candy Apple Distress Oxide ink, and I am applying it kind of like the card swiping technique with a paint card. And let me just tell you guys, don't ever apply red paint or red ink or red anything on your page because it just never comes out right. It always looks like a bloody mess, and that's not really what I'm going for. But you know what? At this point, I thought I'm gonna go for it. But so number 1 error was using red. Number 2 is you can see it's catching the texture of the stickers on the back of this page, and so you can kind of see it's really blotchy and weird. But I thought, you know what? That's okay. We're gonna power through. We're gonna layer some things on. It'll be okay. Here's error number 2. I did not dry the Distress Oxide ink before I went in and used some acrylic paint on a piece of bubble wrap. And so if you know anything about color theory, then you know red and green make brown, which isn't awful. I mean, it's Revival Camp. You can see I have some red ink there. Or brown ink. So it wasn't horrible, but things were kind of mixing, and part of that was because the distress ink was not wanting to dry on top of the gesso. That's just the nature of that particular ink. Is it's very easy to move and reactivate on top of gesso, which is actually what's going to save me here in a few minutes. But I decided I'm just going to power through. I lay my little cluster down and I go, well, that looks like somebody killed my deer. That's not going to work. So I think, okay, let's add some more to it, because sometimes all it takes is like a few more layers to save something rather than take something away. So I've pulled out this Gratitude Documented stamp set, and there's this really cute little tree stump, which I will definitely be coming back and using in Revival Camp in the future because I think it goes super cute with it. But I pulled out some pink acrylic paint, dabbed it on with a makeup sponge, stamped it, and nothing. That pink was not going to work. And it's starting to reactivate that oxide ink because it's on gesso. So I thought, okay, let's try white. Maybe that will knock back some of this color mess I have. Nope, it's reactivating that ink and now making a bigger pink mess, and you can't really tell what the stamp is. But let's just keep powering through because I just thought, well, you know what? It's already a mess. Let's keep piling on there and see what happens. So I thought, well, that didn't work. Let's just cover it with white paint because white paint saves everything, right? So I get a fan brush, start brushing this over, and nope, it's reactivating the red ink and turning into a big smeary pink mess. So then I grabbed a paper towel and started dabbing the paint on super thick, thinking, okay, maybe that'll cover it. No, it's picking up the red ink and making a giant mess. So at this point, I almost turned off the camera, walked away, and just tossed out this page. But here's where I save it. Because I had applied clear gesso, I thought, you know what? Let's add a whole bunch of water and see if we can take away some of this ink. And so this actually worked because that ink is sitting on top of that gesso and is very reactive with water. I'm able to spray the heck out of this page with water and dab up that ink, and 90% of the ink comes up. So the acrylic paint stays because that's just the nature of acrylic paint. But this Distress Oxide ink, I think even if it had been a different color, probably would have come up 100%. Red is kind of a staining color, and so, but you know what? It knocked it back to this kind of like peachy, fleshy color, which was much better than that bright red. And I just keep spraying and spraying, and don't worry, that gesso protects your page from the water, and so everything is fine. And I thought at this point, it's already a mess. So if it gets worse, oh well. I was just going to throw it out before I did this. So you can see I'm able to take away almost all of that red. And I thought, okay, all right, I can kind of get behind this page now. So this is one of the few times I was super glad that I used gesso. I'm checking the back of the page. Nothing was ruined on the back of the page. That gesso protected everything. So I decided to bring in some red with some other elements, not paint. I should have known. As soon as I started to scrape it on the page, I was like, Lindsey, what are you doing? This never, ever works out when you scrape or paint with red on a Bible page. Why are you doing this? But it was a learning experience for me. And I think it was a really good way to show you guys that really you can save a lot of oopses and mess ups in your Bible just by exploring and playing around and not giving up. And so I thought, let's just power through and we'll kind of show you guys my mess up. Now, because I'd had that giant mess, it's really taken down my confidence. So through the rest of this video, you will see I second guess and doubt myself every step of the way trying to finish up this page. So I've got this cluster of paper pieces. It's some label printables. It's that flower is a printable from Elaine Davis. That deer is the printable that came with the kit. And I'm just second guessing every placement of all of those. I'm like, well, it kind of looks like the deer is pooping flowers and I don't want that, but I need to cover that blank space. Like I should have just not used the deer. He was I was bound and determined to use it, and it was just fighting me every step of the way. And I'm also trying not to cover up the verse because I am working on Romans 16, 17 through 18, which is right next to that deer head. So I'm trying not to cover that up. But we get it. We're getting there. So I also wanted to use the trail mix from the kit this month. So I pulled out the tag and I thought, well, let's try that candy apple red ink again. This was okay. This worked out. So I'm just using a mini ink blending tool and blending that red onto the tag. The reason I'm really pushing for this red is because you can see in the top left-hand corner is that fellowship badge that came with the kit, and that is going to be my tab, and it's just red and pink. So I was really trying to pull in some more red into the spread, but red is not a color I like to use. I just really struggle with it. So as you can see, I continue to struggle with it. So after that ink dried, I'm taking a distress sprayer and spraying some just plain water on this tag and then drying it. And one of the really cool things about Distress Oxide inks are they oxidize or react with water. And so you get this really fun, grungy, textured look with the ink, which I absolutely love. I think it goes so well with the kind of vintage feel of Revival Camp. So that worked out. That was a save. That was a good. So I'll go ahead and put the little tag back on there, and then we can start kind of piecing together this tag. And this tag is going to end up being a private journaling spot for me. So I'm able to write a really intimate private prayer on the back of this tag, and that way it's not easily seen if somebody's flipping through my Bible. I'm even second guessing where to put this ribbon, like to the front of the tag, the back of the tag. I mean, guys, this page wrecked me. It was so hard. I went ahead and used my tiny attacher to attach that ribbon, and I've pulled out some of the buttons from the trail mix. And the thing about the trail mix is everybody gets something different. So I was kind of struggling with the sizes and textures and colors of the buttons that were included in mine. So I ended up switching that out a couple times. This stamp set here, I have a Tip Tuesday showing how I put that together. I'll link it down below. It's actually a mixture of a whole bunch of Illustrated Faith stamps that I've pulled all together, all of the sentiments. And so this one here that says, I trust you, I have no idea what devotional kit that came from. It's from a much older kit, I'm sure. They're just all on one page for me to use now, but I'm going to heat emboss that. So I am sure to apply a whole bunch of this powder tool to my tag just so that the distress or the powder doesn't stick to the ink that's on that tag. If you have questions about heat embossing, I have a Tip Tuesday all about that. So I will link that down below and you can kind of see how heat embossing works. But I'm stamping in a clear sticky ink, and then I'm covering it in some white embossing powder. Now, this particular stamp is one of the old ones from Illustrated Faith that's squishy and soft. So I was very careful to lightly stamp it so that I was able to still read the text. It's such a small, fine stamp that if you push too hard with those squishy stamps, it just blurs out all the words. So I was pretty careful to stamp that. And then heat set that embossing powder. And so that says, I trust you. Now I can start Sticking things down. This flower is from the kit. I'll adhere the buttons down with some liquid glue, and you can see I swapped out some of the buttons for smaller ones in different colors. There is a if__ trail mix challenge. So if you want to post the creative ways that you're using your trail mix from your kits, you can use that tag and we can take a look at that. Decided to go ahead and pull out some alpha stickers from the kit. So it says, "God, I trust you," which I should have just trusted him. He obviously knew I needed to spend a lot of time with this scripture and really work on it, because I spent a lot of time on this page thinking about it. Off camera, I went ahead and used some Tim Holtz stickers and journaled out Jeanette's definition for fellowship. And now we can start kind of wrapping things up. So I can reattach that tab from the back side of the page, and you can see nothing was moved or messed up since I had that gesso on there. And then I'll go ahead and use the fellowship tab to secure down that journaling tag, and it does have a prayer journaled on the back side of it. I date stamped over the deer, and that is it. So I hope that gives you some encouragement for some ways to power through messy, messed up Bible journaling pages. It's not the end of the world. You can usually save it. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Check out the description box for links to all the products mentioned. This particular revival kit is sold out, but don't worry, part 2 is coming next week. So that will be coming right around the corner. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.